And welcome back to Zanpakuto Theory video today, folks. And today we are talking about the former captain of the 7th Division, let me get his name right. Aikawa? Something along those lines. Love Aikawa. And what is the Bankai of the Zanpakuto, Tengumaru? Now, to, again, understand what we can see with the Bankai, we have to explain Love Shikai. Tengamaru, it basically just takes the form of a normal katana. Its release apparently is crushed down, or in the Viz translation, it's slam, where it basically turns into a giant war club. I believe it's a large black kanabo? Basically a large flail with spikes on it. It's taller than Love is, but Love's able to wield it pretty effectively, and it can apparently block... it can take like a blast from the Prima Spada Stark, a Zero Blast with relative ease. Now, here's the thing: we know a technique of Tengumaru, which translates into the overall knowledge of somewhat of its ability, but we actually don't know what Tengumaru's Zanpakuto ability actually is. It's similar to Rukia's. We assumed that Rukia had ice manipulation. Turns out her Shikai is actually, her Zanpakuto is about manipulating body temperature and reducing her to absolute zero, manipulating cold itself. Tengamaru has one ability that we have seen, fire-blowing gavel. Love swings Tengamaru up and ignites itself, and it swings it up and it ignites itself with flames. He then points it downwards in a huge fireball from the tip where, I'm reading this verbatim, hold on. He then points it downwards, and a huge fireball fires from the tip, whereupon making contact with the target, the fire explodes outwards at a great distance, which results in a blast being strong enough to cave in buildings near the center of the impact. At the site of impact, a huge column of burning flames forms, incinerating anything in the area. So, obviously, it involves flames in some level. That's what Tengamaru's ability is. So, or at least in some manner, it manipulates fire on some level. So, what would the Bankai of this be? Well, off the bat, we also need to know what Tengamaru actually means. Tengamaru, roughly speaking, translates to long-nosed goblin. Now, I have seen a lot of people. Anytime I do one of these Zanpakuto theory videos, I do look into other people's theories of what Tengamaru does. Or what Zanpakuto does. In this case, I looked at what people think Tengamaru does. Now, I've seen some people think that like a giant goblin Oni comes out. It's kind of like Kakuju Tengen Myo. It's like it summons a creature, and maybe the creature manipulates a fire. That's not a terrible idea. Frankly, I don't think it fits with Rose, though. Oh, I was about to say Love, though. One, though, that I actually read last night that I found kind of interesting is when you think of is based on the idea that, excuse me, got something caught in my throat. We good? I think we're good. That if you go off the idea of what the goblins in Japanese folklore actually use, normally they're not using clubs, they're using more like fans or pipes, things along those lines, things that manipulate wind. And the theory that I saw is actually a pretty cool theory, that Tengamaru doesn't manipulate fire per se, it's manipulating temperature, because, you use a pipe to, use the wind to increase the power of flames. So what if Tengamaru's ability isn't necessarily fire per se, but the ability to increase the temperature of something rapidly? Because the technique that he used, Hifuki no Kodachi, or Kodachi, he swings it up and ignites it, which means, hypothetically, the friction is what ignited the attack, and he swings it back down, just increasing the power of the blow even more. He probably has another technique where instead of like going up and down, he spins the kanobo, and maybe creates like a freaking fire tornado or something like that. And that the idea is that his Bankai would basically be a superheated ignition, where that when he activates it, it's kind of like the opposite of Rukia's Bankai, where it's a giant flash freeze effect, and she can't move because she's so cold. Like if she started to move, she would actually start to break apart. Whereas the opposite would be with him, where he doesn't a flash burn effect. It pretty much incinerates anything in the immediate area, and whatever form he's taking after that would be how he actually is. He can't move because he's so hot that if he moves, he'll actually crumble. So instead of Ruki having to heat up to slowly, he'd have to cool down slowly. That's not a bad idea either. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of, so those, I actually like that idea a lot more, but I'm going to throw up my own, I always like to go with the idea some people give, but I always like to throw in my 2 cents in there as well. So what do I think Tengumaru's Bankai is, if it's not any of those per se? Well, first off, I actually dig on the idea that that's what Tengumaru's actual ability is that it manipulates temperature to some degree. What I like to believe is that it ignites through friction. It's not necessarily temperature manipulation in the same sense that the other person described, that can just increase the temperature all at once. It does have to move in order to ignite. I do think that. And then he has to, actually activate the technique. But upon doing that, he's got a dangerous weapon he can use. So upon that, what would the Bankai of this be? Well, I think first off, it's probably a Bankai that he can't use around allies, similar to like Shunsui's, Yamamoto's. It's simply because him and Rose were kind of clearly losing that fight. Now, why Rose didn't activate his Bankai, whatever, that's probably just story purposes. Because Rose's Bankai doesn't look like it would affect other people. It looks like he can focus it on individual opponents, because there are other people in that area, Kensei and Shuhei, when he activates his Bankai against Maste Masculine. So take that for what it's worth. I would imagine, though, that being a fire-type Zanpakuto, it's very possible that he can't activate his Zanpakuto's Bankai around other people. At least not within the vicinity. Like, he had Rose right next to him. I imagine he couldn't activate his Bankai right next to Rose. So it's probably something that does have a wide range of effect. But I contend something more along the lines of a lesser version of Yamamoto's blade. And what I mean by that is this. Let's go with the idea that I'm going with, that it's igniting through friction. So by going into Bankai, first, I think it actually would do something similar to like Ichigo and Kenpachi's, where the blade, or the Shikai, slims down to a certain degree. I say slims down. The actual, we're looking at this picture as it is. It's nowhere near as bad. Like, it's about as thin as he is. It's still huge, but as thin as he is. But the blades don't shrink. So look at it like a cactus. The cactus itself kind of compresses down, but the spines of the cactus needles, stay the same length. So now you got this much more bladey weapon. But more importantly, I think what we see with Rose is not much changes from his appearance at first, but the minute he starts to move, he's immediately encompassed in flame. And the faster he moves, say like with Shumpo or something like that, he is basically a torrent of incineration. Only someone like Yamamoto, or someone who could counter with enough cold, or someone who could maybe deactivate ability, someone who could theoretically counter that, could beat him. In that state. But the problem is that the faster he's moving, the wider the radius of the fire is. So that's why he can't really use it in tandem with the fighting with someone like Rose, because if he's moving at certain speeds, he can't risk Rose getting hurt. He can't risk an ally getting hurt. So I think it involves more with friction and speed in his case. Now, that's just my throwing it out there. I do like the idea, though, of a Bankai, similar to kind of how with Yoruichi, when I speculated her Zanpakuto and Bankai, the faster she moved, the more her ability activated. I think it'd be similar to him, but in a different sense, where it's the friction, because, again, friction causes heat, causes flames. Simple as that. With air friction is a total thing as well. So I'd completely believe that would be his Zanpakuto ability, specifically how we see that technique work. Again, Hifuki no Koduchi, or fire blowing gavel. Again, he swings it up and ignites itself with flames. It swings it up, ignites it with the friction, points it downwards, and a huge fireball. More friction, more firepower. Simple as that. Now again, unless they ever use a supplementary product, like another data book comes out and actually explains what the Zanpakuto actually did, I doubt we'll ever figure out what it actually does. Same with any of the visors whose abilities we never actually saw. Like, we saw pretty much all of their abilities minus, or pretty much all of their Zanpakutos minus Hachi's. But Hachi's is, he's a Keto expert. He doesn't really use it. It's guarantee you, though, it is a Keto type Zanpakuto. That we're not going to speculate on, well, we could. I'm going to do Tetsuzayamon at some point. So, there you go. But we've at least seen his Zanpakuto Shikai. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, that's what I overall think, first off, what his Shikai's actual ability really is. And second off, what I think his Bankai ability really is. But what do you think Tengumaru's ability actually is, his Bankai? What does his Bankai do? What does the actual Zanpakuto legitimately do? Obviously, it manipulates fire in some capacity. But what does it actually do? Put it in the comments below and let me know. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, superhero, magic, what if, anything I do on the channel, put that in the comments below as well. I'll get to that at some point. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.